They weren't supposed to be there. The contracts hadn't been signed. The rumors had been denied. WWE officials swore up and down that it wasn't happening. But on November 23, 2025, at Survivor Series, the impossible became reality. Two names that had been whispered in hallways, debated in locker rooms, and prayed for by fans worldwide finally emerged from the shadows. Zilla Fatu and Jacob Fatu didn't just return to WWE. They invaded it. They shattered every expectation. They broke every rule. And in one earth-shattering moment, they changed the entire landscape of professional wrestling forever. This is the story of the most shocking return in WWE history. This is the story of how the Bloodline went from broken to unstoppable in the span of 5 explosive minutes. And if you think you know what happened that night, you're wrong. Because what we witnessed wasn't just a return. It was a declaration of war. So sit back, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, family, and the brutal legacy of the Samoan Dynasty. Let's set the stage. Survivor Series 2025. Vancouver, Canada. Rogers Arena packed to capacity with over 19,000 screaming fans. The energy in that building was already electric. We had just witnessed incredible matches all night long. Tag team warfare. Championship battles. Rivalries reaching their boiling point. But the main event was what everyone had been waiting for. The traditional Survivor Series elimination match. 5 on 5. Two teams built on pure hatred and months of brutal storytelling. On one side, the remnants of the original Bloodline. Roman Reigns, GUSO, Jimmy USO, Sami Zayn, and Solo Sikoa, who had reluctantly rejoined his family after weeks of tension. On the other side, a collection of the most dangerous men in WWE. Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and the monstrous Bronson Reed, all united by one common goal: destroy the Bloodline once and for all. The match had been absolute carnage. Bodies flying everywhere. Tables shattered. Chairs bent beyond recognition. Blood, sweat, and tears painting the canvas in a brutal masterpiece of violence. One by one, superstars were eliminated. Bronson Reed hit a devastating tsunami on Jimmy USO, eliminating him. Seth Rollins delivered a stomp to Damian Priest after a miscommunication, accidentally taking out his own teammate. The chaos was beautiful. The storytelling was perfect. And as we reached the final moments, only 3 men remained. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa representing the Bloodline. Drew McIntyre standing alone for his team. The crowd was on their feet. This was it. The climax. Roman and Solo circled Drew like predators surrounding wounded prey. McIntyre, battered and exhausted, refused to quit. He fought back with everything he had. Claymore kick to Solo. The big man went down hard. Drew turned his attention to Roman, but the tribal chief was ready. Superman punch. Spear. 1, 2. Drew kicked out. The building exploded. Roman couldn't believe it. He argued with the referee, insisting that was 3. Solo had recovered and climbed back into the ring. The brothers exchanged a look, a nod. Time to end this. They picked Drew up. Double powerbomb through the announce table. The impact was sickening. Drew's body crumpled in a heap of broken wood and shattered monitors. Medical staff rushed to check on him, but Roman and Solo weren't finished. They dragged McIntyre's lifeless body back into the ring. Roman called for the steel steps. Solo retrieved them, sliding the cold metal into the ring with sinister intent. The referee tried to intervene, but Solo shoved him aside. This wasn't about winning anymore. This was about sending a message. About proving that the Bloodline doesn't just beat their enemies, they destroy them. Roman positioned Drew's head on the steps. The crowd was begging him to stop. Chants of "please don't do it" echoed throughout the arena. But Roman just smiled. That cold, calculated smile of a man who knows he's untouchable. He backed up into the corner, measuring Drew for what looked like a career-ending spear directly onto the steel steps. Solo stood guard, making sure no one interfered. This was going to be murder on live television. Roman charged. Full speed, intent to obliterate. But just before impact, the lights went out. Complete darkness. The entire arena plunged into blackness. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Was this a power outage? A technical malfunction? And then, cutting through the darkness like a blade, a sound emerged. Drums. Deep, rhythmic, primal drums that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. The Bloodline's music, but different. Heavier. More aggressive. More dangerous. Question time. When those drums hit and the arena went dark, what was your first thought? Did you know what was about to happen, or were you completely blindsided? Drop your answer in the comments, because I need to know if anyone saw this coming. The lights came back on. And standing at the top of the entrance ramp were 2 figures that made the entire wrestling world collectively lose their minds. Zilla Fatu and Jacob Fatu. The prodigal sons had returned. But this wasn't the Jacob Fatu that some fans remembered from the independent scene. This was something different. Something evolved. Both men stood there in matching black and red tribal gear, faces painted with traditional Samoan war paint, looking like actual warriors preparing for battle. The resemblance to their legendary family was unmistakable, but there was something new in their eyes. Something hungry. Something violent. The crowd didn't know how to react at first. Shock. Confusion. And then, as realization set in, an eruption of noise that rivaled anything heard in WWE all year. These were the missing pieces. The next generation. The future of the bloodline that everyone had speculated about but never thought would actually happen. Social media exploded instantly. Hashtags trend worldwide within seconds. Wrestling journalists scrambled to confirm what they were seeing. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. WWE had denied negotiations. Both wrestlers had supposedly been locked into contracts elsewhere. But there they stood, real as the ring they were about to enter. Roman and Solo stood frozen in the ring, genuinely shocked. This wasn't part of any plan. Roman's face showed something fans rarely see from the tribal chief. Uncertainty. He didn't know if they were here to help or to challenge. The history was complicated. Jacob had been gone from WWE for years, making his name elsewhere while Roman consolidated power. Zilla had been kept away, developed in secret, waiting for his moment. And now both had arrived at the same time, unannounced, uninvited, and clearly ready for war. Zilla and Jacob began their walk down the ramp. Slow, methodical, every step deliberate. They didn't acknowledge the fans, didn't pose or celebrate. Their eyes were locked on the ring, on Roman, on Solo, on the legacy they were about to claim. When they reached ringside, they split up. Jacob went left. Zilla went right, surrounding the ring, cutting off all escape routes. Roman's jaw clenched. He raised his microphone, attempting to take control of the situation the way he always does. Through words. Through authority. Through the sheer force of his presence as tribal chief. "I don't know what you two think you're doing out here," Roman began, his voice steady but with an edge of warning. "But this is my ring. My show. My bloodline. And unless you're here to acknowledge me and bend the knee, you need to turn around and walk back up that ramp right now." Silence. Jacob and Zilla just stared at him, unmoving, unflinching, not intimidated in the slightest. And then Jacob did something that sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. He smiled. Not a friendly smile. A predator's smile. The smile of someone who knows they hold all the cards and are about to play their hand. He climbed onto the ring apron. Zilla mirrored him on the opposite side. Roman and Solo backed into a defensive position, ready for whatever was about to happen. But what happened next, nobody could have predicted. Jacob and Zilla stepped through the ropes and stood face to face with Roman and Solo. For bloodline members. For generations of the legendary Anoa'i family. All in one ring. The tension was suffocating. You could have heard a pin drop despite 19,000 people being in attendance. Roman's eyes darted between the two newcomers, calculating, trying to figure out their play. Solo's hands were balled into fists, ready to fight at a moment's notice. And then Drew McIntyre, forgotten in all the chaos, stirred. He was still lying on the mat, barely conscious but aware enough to know something massive was happening. He tried to push himself up, to take advantage of the distraction. Big mistake. Because the moment Drew moved, all four members of the bloodline turned their attention to him. And in that instant, with that unified movement, everyone understood. Jacob and Zilla weren't here to challenge Roman. They were here to complete the vision. To make the bloodline truly unstoppable. What happened next was pure, unbridled violence. Jacob hit Drew with a devastating superkick that echoed throughout the arena. Before Drew's body could even hit the mat, Zilla caught him and delivered a thunderous Samoan drop that shook the ring. Solo followed up with a spinning solo. And Roman, seizing the moment, backing up into the corner, and delivering the most vicious spear anyone had ever seen. Drew's body folded in half from the impact. The referee, who had been knocked out of the ring earlier, wasn't even there to count. This wasn't about winning the match anymore. This was about making a statement. But they still weren't done. Jacob climbed to the top rope. The crowd knew what was coming. The move that had made him famous on the independent scene. The move that had hospitalized opponents and ended matches in spectacular fashion. The moonsault. But this wasn't just any moonsault. At 270 pounds, Jacob Fatu launching himself from the top rope is like watching a boulder fall from the sky. He rotated perfectly, came crashing down on Drew McIntyre's broken body, and the impact was so devastating that several fans in the front row actually turned away. The four members of the bloodline stood over Drew's unconscious form. Roman in the center. Solo to his right. Jacob and Zilla flanking them on either side. The image was iconic, powerful, terrifying. This was the bloodline at full strength. Not just Roman and the Usos. Not just Solo trying to find his place, but the complete, fully realized vision of the most dominant family in wrestling history united under one banner. Here's a question for you. With Jacob and Zilla now part of the group, is the Bloodline now completely unstoppable? Or do you think there's any combination of superstars who could take them down? Let me know in the comments because I'm genuinely curious if anyone stands a chance now. Roman Reigns grabbed a microphone from ringside. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of inevitability. The certainty of a man who knows he's already won. For months, you've all been asking me what's next for the Bloodline. You've questioned our strength, questioned our unity. You thought we were vulnerable. You thought you could divide us. You thought wrong. Because this right here, this is what happens when the family comes together. This is what it looks like when the greatest dynasty in wrestling history stops playing games and shows you what real power looks like. He pointed at Jacob and Zilla. These aren't just wrestlers. They're my family. My blood. And now, they're part of something bigger than any of us individually. Something that can't be stopped, can't be broken, can't be defeated. Because we're not just the Bloodline anymore. We're an empire. And empires don't fall. They conquer. They dominate.